Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the midst of our 19th race of the NRLOA McDonald's Cup Series. It is the Cheez-It 355 from here at the Watkins Glen International, our second and final road course race of the year. And it is a little bit delayed because obviously yesterday, for those of you that kept track of the Discord, the NRLOA Discord, this is where I made the announcement that the race would be postponed. Yeah, I stayed up way too late. I stayed up until probably about 5:41 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and didn't wake up till about 1:18, so I missed the start time for the Cup race. But here we are on a Sunday. Here we are on a Sunday afternoon. We are ready to go here at the racetrack where you're mostly turning right, the Watkins Glen International. And things are starting to heat up here for the championship because obviously we are in the midst, we're winding down, and pretty much after today we'll have 4 races left in the NRLOA McDonald's Cup Series season. And as we continue to progress on towards the end of the season, obviously there is a lot that is happening. Of course, some drivers that would be at the top 10 in the point standings, some of them would wound up having some miserable days. That's happened the last couple of weeks now, and other drivers that have basically been having some not so good seasons, they've been turning them around. They've actually been getting some pretty good points. They've been taking advantage of the other top contenders in the championship, having some hiccups, some struggles, and they've really been taking full advantage of that. Just in case, if you were not here last week when we were at the Sonoma Raceway, then you would have missed John Felber taking a little bit of a different strategy to take the checkered flag, get his first McDonald's Cup Series win. And with that, as we are going to segue into our point standings, you're going to see here with that win and with some other drivers not having good days at Sonoma last week, he took full advantage of that and jumped up into the top 10 in the point standings. Here's the rest of them. So, of course, John Andrews, I didn't think that he was going to escape with the points lead. But with that, he managed to do it just barely by 14 points over Edson Hernandez, who also had himself a pretty good race. Will Parrish, still looking for his first win, but still pretty consistently running around inside of the top 5. He is currently third with 397 points to his name. Tyler Belladonna is still inside of the top 10 right now, fourth with 391 points in the pocket. Skylar Taylor with 372. Chad Gronkowski, who did not have himself a good race whatsoever, but still holding on with 367 points to his name. John Felber, as we mentioned, with 358. Now with that win right next now with a win in that little wins column, Michael Young, 1 point back with 357. Another 1 point behind him is Roel Goldorn, our Kansas winner, with 356. And Stephen Colon, 4 points back from Roel Goldorn with 352 points to his name. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of your points standings. Of course, Alex Savatali, who unfortunately wound up getting taken out in a lap 1 crash that eventually segued into a lap 2 incident. Just shortly after coming out of pit road. Unfortunately, his day got cut short, and that's what knocked him outside of the top 10 in the point standings, but he's just on the cusp of possibly getting back inside of the top 10 here today if things do go his way, but it's going to be a pretty interesting fight to try to get back into things. BB Hange, his struggles continue. He falls from inside of the top 20. He fell outside. Now currently 24th in the point standings with 313. So the driver who opened up the season very, very strong is really starting to crumble here in the later stages of the year. So very, very tough break for BB Hange. It's going to be interesting if he can actually kind of round himself back up here for these final 5 races to try to get a strong finish here to the 2024 season. It's going to be very, very interesting to see. Nathan Stapleton, who started on the pole and led the opening laps at Sonoma. I think it was the opening 13 laps or so. Unfortunately, not able to close out the deal with a win or a good finish. He winds up with a minimal amount of points. And it's currently 227 points to his name. So lots of stuff. Lots of stuff here. Breaking down here at the Sonoma Raceway. Now, before we do get started, there is one other thing that I do need to do real quick. And that is turn off all the sound alerts. At least mute them. So we should be good to go. My apologies, I had a little bit of a phlegm buildup, but with that said, we're so happy that you could be here with us here at the Watkins Glen International. We're pretty much going to do something similar to what we did at Sonoma last week. We're going to let the drivers fire up their cars, and we'll go over the starting lineup as they are rolling around the racetrack, getting ready to take the green flag. But it's going to be a pretty interesting race here at the Watkins Glen International. This is our second and final road course race on the year, and it should be fun. And we're glad that you're with us here for 45 laps of action here in the NRLOA McDonald's Cup Series at Watkins Glen. Drivers are strapped into their cars. Pre-race ceremonies are just now starting to wrap up, but in order to get these 42 behemoths rolling on the track, we got to get the command to fire the engines. So let's go trackside and get that command.
Drivers, start your engines.
And there it is. Engines have been fired. Pace car is rolling off, and so are these 42 competitors. And as they roll around the racetrack, here's a look at your starting lineup for today's Cheez-It 355 from Watkins Glen. As you can see on the front row, that is Rogel Dorn. On the pole position and alongside, that is Zachary Fitzwater. Row 2 sees Chad Gronkowski and Derek Hamill. Hamill getting himself a really good starting position here for this race. Row 3 sees our points leader coming in, John Andrews and Nathan Stapleton lining up to his left side. Stapleton trying to bounce back after what could have been a masterful, a magical run that he had at Sonoma. Try to turn it off, try to devote all that energy that he could have had at Sonoma into Watkins Glen. He might get a win out of it. We'll have to find out. Then there's Michael Young and Avon Murray in row 4. Jessica Simpson and Tatiana Noguera make up the 5th row. And then it's Travis Crampton. Last week's winner, John Felber, in the 12th position. Then Casey Wells, Tyler Belladonna, Damian Kyle Wood, Stephen Colon, Val Moscow, Terry Walker, Dale Johnson II, BB Hange completing the top 20. Then it's Matt Jones, Nia Steidel, Bob Floyd, Edson Hernandez, Colin Block, Daniel Adams, Mitchell O'Brien, Kyler Sustry. Then Skylar Taylor, Wyatt Walker, the top 30. Then Sammy Cars, Bryce Egan, Matthew Huber, Alex Rampus, Will Parrish, Michael DeFeo, Josh Lee, Roberto Crown Jr., Durrani, Sebastian Palmer, and then in the caboose, PJ Vidal, and the provisional and the last place starter, Alex Savatali. So a lot of these drivers that are up there in the point standings, they've got a lot of work cut out for them here for today's race. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all shakes out as they make their way into turn number 10, or turn 7, I should say. Pace car is going to pull off. Rogel Dorn, Zachary Fitzwater are going to lead us down to the green flag to get things started at Watkins Glen. And already trouble in the back. Wasting no time whatsoever. That is Bryce Egan in the 5, Durrani, and also the 83 of Sebastian Palmer. All those drivers already have damage to their cars right out of the gate. Palmer gonna be out of it before he even crosses the line to take the green flag. That is a shame. But up front, as you can see, Zachary Fitzwater is already taking command of this race lead early here at the Watkins Glen International. Rogel-Dorn getting kicked back to second, and then third is Derek Hamill. Chad Gronkowski is now in the fourth position as they work their way down the longer straight, back down into this left-hander of turn 6, heading down into turn number 7. Zachary Fitzwater is going to wound up leading the first lap of action here at the Watkins Glen International. And you can see the racing has kind of calmed itself down to single file action. Usually starts like those can get pretty jostled up at the start, especially right around mid-pack, where it looked like that it was about single file and then it would get a little bit jammed up towards the back of the field. So it's pretty interesting of how quickly these drivers were able to sort it out and get to single file. As we take a little bit further back on through the field, there's Alex Savatali in the number 26. After all that, he managed to move up just a few positions up to the 36th spot. So he's gained 6 positions to the misfortune of Durrani and even Sebastian Palmer and also Bryce Egan as well. Egan, who is having himself a great last couple of weeks, unfortunately not getting the start that he wanted at Watkins Glen. But same can be said for the 40 of Michael DeFeo. But I do believe even the number 83 of Sebastian Palmer, yes, there he is. He's on pit road. He's made it back to the pits. So now, unfortunately, he's going to go more than one lap down and possibly might go out of this race, which he has just done. So tough break for Sebastian Palmer going out of it here on lap number 3. So Zachary Fitzwater continues to command this race in the number 9. Remember, at the beginning of the year, he managed to win something. He managed to win a race. It wasn't a points-paying race, but he ended up winning a duel at Daytona to start 4th in the Daytona 500 back in February. And he's kind of had himself one of those types of up and down years, I should say, that you normally wouldn't, that we haven't really talked a whole lot about, because Zachary Fitzwater would kind of just be in the background of things. Sometimes he would run good, but unfortunately there'd be some days where he'd run really good, and you know, the numbers that the results wouldn't back up the numbers, at least the positions that he would be running at that particular point. So sometimes he'd be running inside of the top 5, top 10, maybe even top 15, and then something would happen and he wouldn't get the finish that he had been working hard for. But here we are, Watkins Glen International, right now running in the top position. So far, he's already clinched that 1 bonus point for leading a lap. Doing an amazing job holding on to this race lead. Rogel-Dorn in second, facing a little bit of pressure from Derek Hamill for that second position back in that 3rd spot, as they work their way down this longer part of the straightaway, heading back into turn number 6, heading into turn number 7. There's Chad Gronkowski in the 36. Remember, he's our 2-time winner, one of the 2-time winners here on the season, trying to go for his 3rd win on the year. John Andrews, Tyler Belladonna, also 2-time winners this season, looking to do the exact same thing. But for Chad Gronkowski, this would be pretty big if he could wound up getting his 3rd win on the year. Obviously, he would make history, becoming the first McDonald's Cup Series driver to get 3 wins in a single season. And that would definitely boost his confidence heading into the next race when we go to Martinsville this coming Friday night. So you can see there, that's Bryce Egan in the 5. He's already made his way back out from the pit area. And Fitzy's having a little bit of trouble just trying to get around him. And that, with that all said, that could have opened the door for Rogel-Dorn to make a move down to the inside to try to take that race lead away. But hasn't quite made the move just yet. This time by will be a 1/9 of the way through the Cheez-It 355 here at the Watkins Glen International. If you're just tuning in, we had ourselves a crash at the start of the race Some drivers didn't even take the green flag, and we already had an incident. One of them involving Bryce Egan in the 5, who is continuing on the racetrack. The other two that I had seen was Ryan Durrani in the 14, Sebastian Palmer in the 83. Palmer did go out of the race back on the 3rd lap of action. And unfortunately, Palmer's going to take a pretty big hit in the point standings. There goes Zachary Fitzwater to the inside of Bryce Egan. Well, to the right side of Bryce Egan. He goes really wide there through the bus stop, heading back down into turn number 5. And I swear to you, every time Rogel Dorn goes a little bit wider through turn number 5, that could just open the door for Derek Hamill to drive low and take that second position away if he winds up making a mistake. And every time that Zachary Fitzwater tries to go to the outside on the right-handers to try to get by the 5 of Bryce Egan, it could wound up forcing Zachary Fitzwater. Well, it could wound up putting Zachary Fitzwater in a position to where he would make a mistake, and that would allow Rogel Dorn to take back the race lead. Remember, Dorn started on the pole. Fitzy started outside. Well, here we go again. Fitzy trying to get to the inside trying to get around Bryce Egan. But Egan is having none of it. Chances are Bryce Egan does have fresher tires. That's probably what he did the last time that he was on pit road. He probably took 4 fresh Goodyears. That's why he's managing to hold off Zachary Fitzwater to at least stay on the lead lap. There he goes, right around the outside on the left-hander. Now inside as he has the corner. He has the preferred line. And this time, Fitzy might have Egan where he wants him. Clears the 5, and now Bryce Egan goes a lap down. There goes Rogel Dorn to the inside as they hit the right-hander. Man, that was interesting there. Egan was able to stay out ahead of the one of Rogel Dorn, because I believe he just managed to kind of send it into turn number 1 a little bit better than what Rogel Dorn was able to. And he back through the bus stop once again. Back down into turn number 5, and we're going to take a little bit of further back through the field. There's Avon Murray in the 30 machine. Avon Murray ended up having himself a really, really great run at the Sonoma Raceway. He's one of those drivers that later in the season, he's been managing to turn it around. He's actually been trying to rack up some good points left and right to try to progress his way up through the point standings to try to get the best possible finish to the season. And so far, he's very well succeeding in that. Currently running in the 7th position here today. He could get some really, really good points leaving here at Watkins Glen when we go to Bristol on Friday night. So, should be very, very interesting to see. Or, Martinsville Friday night. I thought I said Bristol, but we're not going to Bristol until 2025 in WRLA, but as far as my knowledge. But anyways, that's besides the point. As you can see, Egan, again, running 7th. Doing a really nice job. And could, again, as I mentioned, leave here today with some very valuable points that could result in him progressing his way up through the point standings to get himself a good, strong finish to the season. Which is very well a very, very big possibility. Here's John Felber in the 16. Our winner from Sonoma last Saturday. Now here's something that's actually pretty interesting. If we were to take a look at our point standings last week going into Sonoma, which I'm actually going to go ahead and do right about now. John Felber leaving Sonoma, or not going into Sonoma. John Felber was 17th in the point standings. And with that win that he got, he managed to jump up a considerable amount. All the way up, he moved up to 7th in the point standings. That's where he currently is at today. Right now doing a fantastic job. He's trying to do everything he can to at least maintain a top 10 position in the point standings. I mean, for all we know, he could wound up top 5 leaving today if he nails down the strategy. But it should be pretty interesting to see what pit strategies are going to look like for a vast majority of these drivers. It could wound up being the same, and a lot of them may have to come on down pit road at about the exact same time. We're just going to have to find out. Travis Crampton trying to send it on John Felber, but Felber getting the preferred line because Crampton went a little bit too deep there heading into turn 1. You saw him get down on those little curbs, on the curbing in turn 1, and unfortunately he had to check up a little bit, and so that way he wouldn't get loose and spin out. But Crampton is another driver who's actually doing a very nice job. Didn't get the run that he wanted at Sonoma last Saturday. Had himself a good starting position, and unfortunately got caught up in an incident on lap 1. So here we are today. Crampton running inside of the top 15 in the 12th spot. So he could have wound up getting himself a good run in good run in this race. He could leave here today in a much better spot than what he was in, today than what he was in going into this race from last week, if that makes sense. So now heading back down through turns 1 and 2. Derek Hamill has managed to take over the second position from Rogel Dorn. And with all that, Zachary Fitzwater has checked out to almost a 2-second lead on Derek Hamill. So Fitzy is very well in his own zip code right now. And if if he plays his cards right and the pit strategy falls where he wants it to, Fitzy could walk away with the McDonald's Cup Series win. Remember, he has competed in McDonald's Cup Series competition before, dating all the way back to, I want to say, 2016 or 2017, right around that particular time frame. And still has yet to score a win in the Cup Series. It could very well happen here today. And we're closing it. Well, in this race, it's just like Sonoma, where we are going to see a considerable amount of action, but it's going to go by in a heartbeat because these races are a little bit shorter than your average, say, 100 lapper at a 2-mile racetrack like Fontana, California, or even Michigan, or even your 80 lapper at Pocono or Indianapolis. This race will blow by in a hurry. And even with no cautions on. So as of right now, we're nearing the 30 lap to go mark here in this race, and we're nearing the 1/3. Well, pretty much just the same thing. We're nearing one third of the way done here with this race. As you see, Nia Steidel on pit road. Looks like that's pit stops could very well get underway here pretty soon. They could, but I'm not 100% sure on that yet. Hamill trying to get by Bryce Egan, so that way he has himself a clear path between himself and Zachary Fitzwater. He's not going to get that. Bryce Egan is going to retain the position that he is in right now. He's not he's not running in second, obviously, but he's currently the second car in line, first one lap down. He could wound up getting back on the lead lap here, but only time will tell. So We're about to find out if pit stops are about to get underway here pretty soon, since we did see Nia Sato on pit road a little bit earlier than what we were thinking. It could have been an unscheduled stop, and maybe Saito could have been trying to at least make a move, try to possibly pit earlier than everybody else. That way she could be on a different strategy. Maybe be in a possible position to where she could be good to go the rest of the way on a tank of gas or even a set of tires at some point of the event. It could have. I mean, it is possible. I mean, look at John Felber. Felber was able to stretch it out for as far out as he was able to. I believe it was around the first or second cycles of first or second round of green flag pit cycles, and that's what wound it up giving him the win. Perhaps Nia Sato could be experimenting here and maybe pitting a little bit earlier than everybody else, kind of seeing what would happen, but I'm not 100% sure if that strategy is going to work. But we have seen some more interesting things happen, so we're about to find out here. And here we go. Pit stops are taking place. Lots of drivers coming on in here, so what do we got? I saw Jeremiah Simpson make his way on down the pit road. The leader is in. There's Dorn, his teammate Nathan Stapleton, John Felber with Jeremiah Simpson, DK Wood, Durrani is in with Alex Rampus, Daniel Adams, Tyler Belladonna, and also Terry Walker. They're all in. They're about to make their 4 tire stops. And remember, here at a place like Watkins Glen, the pit stops are flipped backwards. So drivers that pit on the right side. So basically, just obviously, the pit crews would start on the driver's side first and then cycle around to the passenger side. And the fuel pickup would be on the other end of the car. So obviously, the left rear quarter panel, pitting on racetracks where you do obviously have left-hand turns, you'd fuel the car from the left rear quarter panel. At this place, you do it from the right. So here we go for our next round of green flag pit stops. This is going to involve everybody coming on down pit road. This is the rest of that crowd being led by Derek Hamill, and look at all of those pit signs. It looks like a dance down there. It looks like all of those pit sign guys are just doing a little dance with their pit signs. Perhaps they could just do a little wave, if you will. But you see Zachary Fitzwater, he's already making his way back down the start-finish line. Derek Campbell does get credit with leading the last lap, since Fitzy did come on down pit road first. And he does, speaking of Fitzy, he does wound up taking back the race lead. And he's got a pretty considerable margin between himself and Derek Hamill. Coming back over here, we have ourselves a side-by-side battle. It's Ava Murray in the 30, Jeremiah Simpson in the 20. Simpson's going to take that position away from Murray. We're about to find out just exactly what the running order is going to look like here pretty shortly. Here comes John Felber on Ava Murray for position. Trying to do it from the outside as they head down into turn number 6. He's going to get just that. Murray made a few mistakes there by going way, way, way too deep into that left-hander, the final left-hander on the track. And that's going to cost him a position, maybe even 2. So our top 10 now officially looks like this. After our first round of green flag pit cycles, Zachary Fitzwater retains the race lead and has almost a 4-second advantage on the 47 of Derek Hamill, who sits second on the track. Third right now is Rogel Dorn. Then fourth is Nathan Stapleton. John Andrews completes the top 5 with Jeremiah Simpson in the 6th spot. John Felber 7th. Then running in 8th is the 38 of Damian Kyle Wood. 9th is the 30 of Avon Murray. And Tatiana Nogueira completes the top 10. Nogueira trying to get themselves a really good finish here to try to progress her way up through the point standings. Remember, Nogueira won at Texas earlier this year, but hasn't fared too well this season ever since then. We are going back to Texas on the 25th of October, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see if she can get out the broom, if she's going to be able to get out the broom for Texas when we get there in about a month from now. So you see top 3, second, third, and fourth are all under a blanket. This would be a fight for the third position. This is Derek Hamill versus 2 Chip Ganassi racing cars. Rogel Dorn in the 1, Nathan Stapleton in the 42. Stapleton still trying to look for his first win of the season. I'm pretty sure he already has a McDonald's Cup Series win that dates back quite a ways, but probably back to 2016, maybe even 2017, probably as late as 2018. But as far as 2024's case, he's still searching for his first win on the season. Could have very well got it at Sonoma had it not been for a mishap on the first round of green flag pit cycles that kind of set him back a little bit, and then some as the race continued to progress. But Nathan Stapleton right now finds himself in a really good position. He's currently running 4th right now as we speak. Who knows, maybe this next round of green flag pit stops, the final round of green flag pit stops coming up here, maybe possibly right around lap 30, he could wound up maybe playing his cards just right to where he could maybe get his first McDonald's Cup win on the year today. Stranger things have happened. There's John Andrews in the 17. He, like Chad Gronkowski and Tyler Belladonna, are trying to do something that has never been done before in the McDonald's Cup Series, and that is get his 3rd win on the year. Right now, Andrews is in a really good position on when it comes to those regards. He comes into this race as the points leader, John Andrews does. So, as of right now, he could very well increase his points lead. Remember, he has himself, if I remember correctly, it was about a 14-point gap between himself and Edson Hernandez. Hernandez right now currently running all the way back in, I think I might have missed it. There he is, back in the 27th position as John Andrews is running 5th. So that's obviously a 14 position difference. And that's another 14-point difference, by the way, mind you. And remember, neither of them have led a lap to claim a bonus point, nor have led the most laps to claim 5 bonus points. Obviously, Zachary Fitzwater, with the day that he is having right now, is going to very well claim those 5 bonus points for leading the most laps. So it's going to be... That points gap obviously is going to increase if things kind of stay exactly the way that they are, even after our second and final round of green flag pit stops. So that's going to be interesting to see what this next round of green flag pit stops is going to look like, if it's going to shake things up or if it's just going to be looking like your normal green flag pit stop, like especially since the first round. I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting. As you saw in the background just about a couple of laps ago when all the drivers are coming down the front straightaway, you might have seen the 41 of Nia Steidl come on down to pit road back on lap 21 in the background just, a little bit ago. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore because I had officially woken up right around 11:20 in the morning and just rolled out of bed 10 minutes prior to this coverage to do this. So I might not be speaking as coherently as I would want, but Nia Seidel did make her way down pit road. She is back out on the racetrack. Currently last car on the lead lap in the 39th position. So things are not looking too well here for Nia Seidel, unfortunately. So a tough break for her. Looks like that strategy that she was trying out, unfortunately, is not paying dividends whatsoever. I'll tell you what is paying dividends. That's obviously Zachary Fitzwater here in this number 9 machine. Has been absolutely strong since the drop of the green flag. Remember, he started outside pole and is, from the looks of things, if he manages to nail this second and final round of green flag pit stops, he could very well walk away with his first McDonald's Cup Series win in all the years that he has competed, especially when we pre-record these races and get about 4 or 5 in, then get burnt out, and then start another season, and the cycle would rinse and repeat. You would have thought that, and in between those little cycles, Fitzy would have gotten a McDonald's Cup Series win, but surprisingly, I don't believe he has. So here today, that could change. And also, on top of that, just to add on, this could give him a very big confidence booster heading into 2025 in the WRLA Pepsi Cup Series. Going to NS Racing to drive the number 9, to return to the NS Racing, I should say, to drive the number 98 Pertec Ford Mustang. So Fitzy obviously surrounding himself with some really good company. He'd be with Andrew Miller, who's returning to Pepsi Cup competition. He'd also be with Noah Clifton, who is also a 2-time winner of the WRLA Pepsi Cup Series, winning at Rockingham in 2020, and then last year at on the dirt at Bristol. Nathan Stapleton, who won at Martinsville in the inaugural WRLA Pepsi Cup Series season back in 2017. And speaking of Nathan Stapleton, there he is once again running in that 4th position, just very consistently running in that 4th spot. Everybody doing a very nice job of just kind of minding their own P's and Q's and just kind of running their own race. But that could very well change, especially with green flag pit cycles. This second and most likely is going to be the final round of green flag pit cycles. That could very well shake things up, especially in the running order. And maybe even some drivers making those last second decisions trying to come on down pit road that could wound up seeing some drivers make some mistakes and may possibly make contact with that the end of that pit wall right there where those sand barrels are. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what the outcome of this next round of green flag pit stops is going to look like. We're inside of 20 laps of racing to go here from the Watkins Glen International. So again, if you're just now tuning in, just before this second round of green flag pit stops, let's review your running order. To those that are tuning in, Zachary Fitzwater is leading the way by just under a 4-second advantage on the 47 of Derek Hamill, who we're looking at right now, running in the 2nd position, with Rogel Dorn in 3rd, Nathan Stapleton 4th, points leader John Andrews rounds out the top 5, and then we have Jeremiah Simpson running in the 6th position, John Felber, last week's winner at Sonoma, running in 7th. Then 8th is the 38 of DK Wood, Damian Kyle Wood. 9th is Avon Murray, and Tatiana Noguera rounds out the top 10. So far, no changes in the top 10 or in any other part of the running order. But the only thing that is changing is the gap between Hamill and Fitzy. Hamill has cut into that gap by just about a tenth. So as of right now, everybody just kind of just, again, running their own race. We only had an incident at the very beginning of the event when drivers were taking the green flag that involved Bryce Egan, Ryan Durrani right here, who to his own luck escaped with very minimal damage. Still running on the racetrack, unfortunately not exactly where he wants to be, running in the 29th position currently. Then also Sebastian Palmer. Palmer did go out of the race on lap 3. And so far, things are not looking too well for even somebody like BB Hange in the 95. Switching gears here, because again, Hange comes into this race in the 24th position in the points standings. He's just had a downward climb. He's just had a downward spiral, I should say. For the last couple of weeks. Remember, he started off the season really, really strong and hung around the top 5, top 10 in the point standings very consistently. Even held the points lead after winning the Daytona 500 for about a couple of weeks up until Bristol, where that race was cut short due to the demolition derby that these drivers were having at the Bristol Motor Speedway. But here we are at the tail end of the McDonald's Cup Series season, and BB Hange has just not had this season play out the way that he would have wanted it to. Started out good, and unfortunately, it is just the cookie has just absolutely crumbled in the later stages of the season. Currently running 24th in the point standings right now in this race. He currently runs 25th, so definitely not the position that BB Hange wants to find himself in, especially in the later stages of the season. So it should be interesting to see if he's going to be able to kind of pull himself back together here for the final 4 races of the McDonald's Cup Series season. When we go to Martinsville on Friday night, maybe try to get himself another win to move himself back up to right around where he probably would want to be. Maybe top 15, probably top 10, if depending on how terrible some of the other front runners of the point standings, some of those front runners are, how they perform at Martinsville next Friday night, or this coming Friday night, I should say. And here we go. Our second and final round of green flag pit stops are just now getting set to get underway. And the strategy looks a little bit more split than what it was before. Zachary Fitzwater coming in with Jeremiah Simpson. I see Terry Walker, Matt Jones in the background. There's Skylar Taylor, Ryan Durrani, Kyler Sustry, Roberto Crown Jr. in the 51, all on pit road. So now here we go. This is going to be very interesting as to how this race is going to play out, especially with who is going to be out front once this round of green flag pit stops is all said and done. Derek Hamill takes back the race lead, but eventually once we come back around to it, he will have to come on into pit road. And that could bring in the rest of the crowd. It could bring in the rest of the crowd. Let's see what happens here. Oh, Hamill's going to actually stay out here. Hamill stays out, along with Dorn, Stapleton, and Andrews. However, Murray, Tatiana Noguera, Casey Wells, Stephen Colon, even Colin Block, Edson Hernandez, Lee, Vidal, San Vitali. They are all coming on down pit road. So yes, these strategies are looking more and more split which is it's definitely gonna shake up the running order by about a lot. Perhaps maybe even if there are some drivers that do wound up running out of gas, maybe that could open up the door for Derek Hamill, since he is stretching it out by just a couple of more laps than everybody else. It could be interesting. The finish of this one could be very, very interesting. Let's see if he comes on down pit road this time around. He continues to stay out. The Chip Ganassi cars come on in. Dorn and Stapleton, they are in. A few more takers. I see John Felber in the 16. Damian Kyle Wood, Daniel Adams are all coming down pit road. And possibly more. But Derek Hamill and John Andrews both stay out and they continue to stretch it out more. What in the world are we witnessing here at the Watkins Glen International? We could be seeing something that, something similar to along the lines of what we saw at Sonoma last Saturday, where John Felber stretched it out for as far as he could possibly go, just in case if there were some drivers that were about to run out of fuel, or even just more importantly run out of fuel, to where they could have enough to get themselves to the finish. And now finally Andrews and Hamill make their way down into the pits. Oh my goodness. Gronkowski, Crampton, Michael Young, Belladonna, Felber, Hange, and the rest of the crowd, they're all coming on down pit road, and that's going to complete our second and final round of green flag pit stops. And who knows, this might possibly give the lead back to Zachary Fitzwater. We're just going to have to find out. Hamill comes out of the pits. Here comes Zachary Fitzwater. And he's going to easily take that race lead back. Fitzy's going to very easily take that race lead away. The Ganassi boys possibly might get back up in the third and fourth on the running order. With John Andrews fifth, here comes Jeremiah Simpson to the inside, with the preferred line heading into the bus stop. Ooh, Simpson went a little bit wide there. And that's going to allow Andrews to retain that fifth position. Remember, Dale Johnson, the second, is currently being scored as the race leader, but you see him, he's already on down pit road. His teammate Mitchell O'Brien is there as well. So now we have 12 to go currently. And Fitzy's going to take back the race lead officially over Dale Johnson and also Mitchell O'Brien. As O'Brien and Johnson are both making their way back out onto the racetrack, along with Bryce Egan here in this 5. That more than likely is going to give the race lead back over to the number 9 of Zachary Fitzwater, and chances are the gap is going to be probably a little bit bigger than what he had previously. So now he's already about down into this corner. Hamill's already made his way onto that straightaway. But by the time that he makes his way down the front stretch, well, as you can see, Fitzy is going to take the race lead here. He's going to take it back with 11 to go. And there he is. There's Derek Hamill, who's already made his way back down the front straightaway. That's a 6.5 second gap that Zachary Fitzwater has over Derek Hamill, who sits in the second position, Vogel Dorn third, Nathan Stapleton fourth, John Andrews fifth, Jeremiah Simpson in the sixth position. Avon Murray moves up to seventh. John Felber gets kicked back to eighth. Tatiana Noguera ninth, and Casey Wells shows up inside of the top 10 for the first time today. So 10 more laps of racing to go coming up from here at the Watkins Glen International. And Zachary Fitzwater has a pretty considerable margin over the 47 of Derek Hamill. As you see here, Damian Kyle Wood being contesting the 7 of Casey Wells here for this 10th position. This is the only fight that's currently going on track right now. DK Wood looks like he's going to take that position away here with the preferred line heading into turn number 7. And he looks like he's going to get clear of Casey Wells. Does just that, heading back into turn number 1. We are down to 10 laps of racing to go officially from here at the Watkins Glen International. DK Wood takes over the 10th position from Casey Wells. And there is Zachary Fitzwater in the number 9 machine. You got to think somebody like Nathan Stapleton, who does own NS Racing for the Pepsi Cup Series in 2025, you've got to believe that he has to be absolutely ecstatic for the reasons why he's re-signed Zachary Fitzwater, and what we could see here in another 9 laps time could very well be the reason why he wanted Zachary Fitzwater to come back to the team. The gap now is under 6 seconds between Zachary Fitzwater and Derek Hamill, who currently runs in that second position still. Take a look further back in the field, see if there's any sort of action going on. So far, we haven't seen a whole lot of it. It's been probably one of the calmest races you're ever going to find here in the McDonald's Cup Series schedule, where everybody just minds their own P's and Q's, stays in single file formation. But I'm going to tell you this right now. If you watched Martinsville back earlier in the season, I'd say right around March or April, you would already know that that racetrack has absolutely no chill in it whatsoever. Neither does the action. So we're going to see some really, really great racing from the Martinsville Speedway this Friday night, October 4th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time under the lights. That should be a very fun one, and we're hoping that you guys are able to tune in on Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. After today, of course, we'll have 4 races left in the McDonald's Cup Series. After that race, obviously, we'll be down to 3. The gap has shrunk once again to a 5.6 second advantage that Fitzy has over Derek Hamill. And so far, all this right here, we could just very well be looking at what our top 10 looks like currently. Once the checker flag waves. And back down into turn number 6, back into turn number 7. Of course, Fitzy just took 7 to go. The gap is now shrunk by 0.3 currently. So we're looking at our winner from last Saturday, John Felber in the 16. Currently trying to hold off whatever challenges that Tatiana Noguera might be stirring up in the 21. Noguera, who won at Texas earlier this year, has struggled, absolutely struggled to maintain whatever confidence that they might have had after that win at Texas. Not that they didn't have any, but unfortunately they weren't able to capitalize on it the way that they would have wanted to. But here we are today at Watkins Glen International. That could very well this could very well be the race that might send Nogueira on a stride here for these final 4 races after today. That could see this 21 back in victory lane one more time before the year is said and done. 6 more laps of racing to go, and we are now down to about a 4.96 second gap between Fitzy and Derek Hamill. That is under 5 seconds. And right now, I mean, it's still a pretty considerable gap, though, that Fitzy has on Derek Hamill as he makes his way through the bus stop back into turn number 5. We're going to have 5 laps of racing to go here from the Watkins Glen International. And with Derek Hamill and even John Andrews stretching it out as far as they have on their run, it's going to be kind of interesting to see if Fitzy's going to be able to stretch out the fuel on his car, because remember, he pitted about a few laps earlier than what Derek Hamill and John Andrews did. That started that whole second and final round of green flag pit cycles. So now that's the question. Can Zachary Fitzwater hold on and make the fuel last? Now it's under 4.5 seconds between Fitzy and Derek Hamill. So far, everybody is a little bit more spread out. But right now, it's actually looking pretty stout. There's our runner-up in points currently, Edson Hernandez, now running 29th. And John Andrews still running in 5th. So now that points gap could increase just a little bit more, leaving today at Watkins Glen. Possibly might be a 30-point gap. We're just going to have to find out here after this race. We're down to 4 laps of racing to go from here at the Watkins Glen International. It is now a 4.06 second gap that Fitzy has over Hamill. Hamill obviously is starting to cut into that gap. But is he going to have enough time, though? That is going to be the question. And is this going to be at a point where Fitzy is going to be able to make that fuel last? He might just barely do it. But if he's not, obviously that would be very, very devastating for Zachary Fitzwater. Especially judging off the fact that he has been extremely strong here in this race. He's led almost every single lap with the exception of the pit cycles. But this would be something if Zachary Fitzwater does not win this race after the type of day that he's had here today. 3 to go. And the gap now between the 3 and the 47 is now a 3.8 second gap. He's not Hamill has cut into that by about 0.2. Pretty amazing the gap that it's pretty amazing of the position that Jeremiah Simpson is in, because right now he's just in his own zip code. He's far enough back from John Andrews, but far enough ahead of the 30 of Avon Murray where he can actually just where obviously he can just run his own race. Now I don't have to worry too much about what's going on around him. So he's kind of just on his own little Sunday cruise, if you will, since we are running this race on a Sunday. We're coming down to 2 laps of racing to go. here from the Watkins Glen International. Let's focus back in on Zachary Fitzwater in the number 9 machine, who is having himself an absolutely magical run here at the Watkins Glen International. 3.2 seconds now is the difference between Hamill and Fitzy with 2 to go. And from the looks of things, I don't think Derek Hamill is going to have enough time to catch Zachary Fitzwater. The only thing that Hamill could hope for is Fitzy may run out of gas. Possibly with 2 to come into the white flag, or maybe even coming to the checkered flag. But I would doubt it if it was coming to the checkered flag. I doubt Fitzy would just dip to pit road. If he was coming to the checkers, he'd let that thing coast. He's got a pretty considerable gap to where he could do it if he found himself in that situation. But coming around through turn number 7, the white flag is displayed. 1 more lap to go from the Watkins Glen International. Fitzy is leading. Will he be leading coming back to the checkered flag? The gap between him and Hamill is under 3 seconds. As he works his way up through the S's one final time. Heading into the bus stop, Zachary Fitzwater came into this race 28th in the point standings. As he makes his way through the bus stop one final time, heading into turn number 5, he's had himself a magical run. He's had one of those quiet seasons where he'll run good and then some other days not so much. But today, we're about to see the exact reason why NS Racing has signed on Zachary Fitzwater to come back in 2025 for the WLA Pepsi Cup Series. Off the final corner, Zachary Fitzwater has done it. He will win the Cheez-It 355 from here at the Watkins Glen International. What a run for Zachary Fitzwater. Started the race outside pole and hasn't looked back from there. He wins it by just 2.37 seconds over the 47 of Derek Hamill. And how about that for Hamill? He's also been around in the McDonald's Cup Series for a while. I'd say dating back to around 2017. He's got himself a really good finish here this year. Rogel Dorn, our Kansas winner, finishing in 4th. Nathan Stapleton, great run for him, bouncing back from Sonoma last week. He completes the top 5 with John Andrews, who more than likely will be leaving with the points lead. Once again, probably with a much larger deficit between himself and Edson Hernandez, maybe even to somebody else. But Jeremiah Simpson finishing in the 6th position, Avon Murray 7th, John Felber finishing in 8th, Tatiana Noguera 9th, and completing your top 10. That would be the number 38 of Damian Kyle Wood. Here's a look at the rest of your results, of course, from positions 11th all the way down. Obviously the 28th, you can see here, they're all on the lead lap. But all the way down to 39th. Everybody was on the lead lap with the exception of Bryce Egan and even Michael DeFeo. Sebastian Palmer went out of the race on lap 3. He's not even shown as somebody who even took the green flag, but you know, he was in this race. You can see here he started 40th, but obviously after the incident that he had, he didn't even start the race, unfortunately, according to this game. So he will be credited with a 42nd place finish. Not exactly the type of day that he would have wanted, but for Sebastian Palmer, of course, he will be credited with a 42nd place finish. But yeah, this definitely was not the race that Sebastian Palmer was even hoping for, but this is definitely one that he's definitely going to want to kind of put into the back of his mind and just move on to Martinsville this coming Friday night. So if you are watching the premiere on YouTube, as you see Wyatt Walker kind of do a little loop-de-loop before disappearing just on that little mini screen. But if you are watching the premiere on YouTube, to those in the NRLOA Discord, keep an eye on the McDonald's Cup Series text chat for your point standings. Those are coming your way very, very shortly. But one more time, congratulations to Zachary Fitzwater on nabbing his first McDonald's Cup Series win on the season. And next, in this coming Friday night, as I've mentioned, we will be at the Martinsville Speedway for 200 laps of action. That should be very fun. And we're hoping that you guys are able to tune in. Hope you enjoyed this race for what it was. I know there wasn't a whole lot of action going on, with the exception of pit stops, but still, it was definitely a good one to say the least. Zachary Fitzwater, a dominant and strong day for him. He gets the job done here at the Watkins Glen International. And that's pretty much going to do it. Have yourself a great rest of your day, ladies and gentlemen. Take care. And one more time, congratulations to Zachary Fitzwater on winning here at Watkins Glen. We'll see you all this Friday night here. We'll see you all this coming Friday night at Martinsville.